Hello everyone and welcome to Big Rock Moto. Thank you so much for tuning in today. In today's episode, it's going to be really simple. I'm going to show you some of the Touratech accessories and upgrades for BMW's R1300GS. Now, a couple things. Disclaimer about my relationship with Touratech and also why I'm doing the video. So I don't accept paid reviews where companies pay me to show a product. I don't do that. However, I do get free products and I do have affiliate sales programs with certain products, although that doesn't apply with Touratech. So I don't earn any money if you buy Touratech parts. So really the only motivation for me doing this video is one, I get some pretty cool parts for this bike that I can use. And two, I want to show you different options for outfitting your bike if you happen to have one of these new 1300s. So I've done the SW Motec stuff and now I've done the Touratech stuff. So Touratech did send me the parts for free and I'm free to do with the parts as I wish. Now, I've been using various Touratech parts for a long time, as I'm sure many of you have. If you've had adventure motorcycles over the past 20 years, it's really hard not to run into Touratech accessories. Not only do they make great aftermarket stuff, but the reality is they do partner with a lot of OEMs out there to make luggage and crash protection parts. And a lot of times when you see OEM parts on a bike that they're branded as from the OEM manufacturer, they're actually made by Touratech. Although they won't always say that, you can kind of tell by the quality and the fit and finish. What I like with Touratech stuff is the installation is usually very straightforward, and the fit and finish and quality of the components is usually at an OEM level. So I really do like that. All right, let's start at the front of the bike. I'm going to show you the headlight protector. So you have to take off, this front fairing comes off in about 30 seconds, really easy, this front beak part to mount this, and it mounts on these three posts here. But the cool thing is, and it's hard to do this with one hand, is that for cleaning, or if you just don't want to run it, like if you're doing street riding and you don't think you need it, you can just pop that off and see, then you can clean the back side of it, and there's your headlight. And then to put it back on, I can actually probably do this one-handed. That's how well this is designed. It pops into these little, well, it's a little hard to do one-handed if I'm honest. Now, there we go. I was able to do it with one hand. So that holds on there. You want to protect your headlight. The headlight is, I'm guessing it's a couple $1,000s. I know it was on the 1250, so you want to protect that. Now, it's hard to see with the lighting, but I've got the radiator, there we go, the radiator guards in here. This is really important because the radiators, you know, stones, rocks, whatever's going to fly up in here. Here's a view of the other side there. Come on, camera, there we go. So you can see it does a good job. You still have to have the cuts in it. You still have to have airflow going through the radiator, obviously, otherwise the bike can't cool. But so it has openings, but it's a metal cover that protects the radiators from, you know, getting damaged from sticks or brush or rocks going up in there. So that's great. Now let's look at the crash bars. So the crash bars use a 4-point mounting design, which I'm really like. This upper rear mount is not bolted into the frame, but it rests on this plastic mount here. And you can't really see, but what happens is when you fall over, the impact is distributed all through these points. But this part is sort of somewhat of a flexible point, but it allows the impact to go through this support and push into the frame here. You can see the front mounts here, they bolt in. Everything fits really well. Like, I installed these crash bars in about 10 minutes. That's how well engineered they are and how easy they are to install. I really like that. You can see the lower mount there, and there's a couple spacers. There's 2 spacers, and I actually just taped them together to make install much easier. So there's a cool hack for you. Here's the rear lower mount there with mounts. They mount into the engine case, so be careful. Don't cross thread it. You know, take your time. Again, it's a very simple install, but don't rush. I really like these integrated sliders or crash kind of sliders that are built in and welded on to the crash bars themselves. that really helps protect the engine. And because you're going to be going forward and kind of going into the ground that way and then down, that's really smart. So I like that. I also like the finish on these. They'll never rust, and they kind of match well to the other silver stuff on the bike, and I think they look great. Okay, so here's the Touratech skid plate, and you can see the coverage is quite extensive, quite good. And it mounts using an energy absorption plate. I don't really know, I'm not an engineer, I couldn't tell you how good that plate really works, but it does seem to provide a little bit of flex to absorb some energy. So the plate mounts to the stock skid plate mounts with the bolt into the bottom of the engine, and then the skid plate mounts onto that energy absorption plate. And then you have these black plastic sliders that go over and slide in to cover the bolt heads. So you don't have exposed bolt heads, means that you're not going to damage the heads of the bolts, which could be a problem to remove the bolts if they get damaged. So I like how those are covered up. Skid plate installs in about 10 minutes, and I'm very, very happy with that. Okay, let's look at our pannier racks. Now, obviously, they're not going to come with the Moto mounting wedges. That's part of the Moto system, but that's the bags I use when I have these racks on the bike. So I like these racks for a few reasons. One, they have factory or even above factory OEM levels of fit and finish and strength. They're very solid mount. You can see how they mount here. They have a mounting point here. They have a cross brace that goes around the back. They're very narrow. They're kept very tight to the bike, which makes your luggage setup nice and narrow. Similar mounts over here. Now, they're not quick release like some of the other products out there are, but because of that, they're extremely sturdy. Like, you can use these to, like, you know, lift the bike or lash things onto. I mean, they're very, very, very strong, and I have total confidence in those because of the way they mount like that. So I'm a big fan of the pannier racks. You can use hard luggage. You can use any sort of soft luggage system. I like just a basic tubular rack like this because it has the widest compatibility with whatever kind of luggage system you might want to use. So it's not like a proprietary rack like some of the other brands are, where it's kind of hard to use other aftermarket options. These you can use just about any luggage you want. So I like that. All right. Mandatory part of the video, we have to, sorry, it's not very good grammar. We have to drop the bike over a little bit gently and see how the crash bars kind of perform. If you watched the SW Motec video, you kind of saw how that system worked, the pros and cons to that. So now I'm going to show you the Touratech. Now, Touratech doesn't have like well, they are going to offer, I think they do offer like a cylinder head cover, but I don't have those because those aren't available yet. So we're just using the crash bar. So this is going to be what you would get. Because they have this kind of more slider thing here and the bars stick out, I think this is going to perform well. But, you know, in the real world, crashes can be different. You might have rocks or whatever terrain that the engine is falling into, and you want to make sure you're protected. So I know dropping it here in my yard is not really a real world crash. And I'm sorry about that, but this is the best I can do really in this kind of video, because I don't want to actually go crash the bike on purpose at speed on a trail. I'm just not going to do that unless it's an accident. So let me do this. So here's a view with the bike laying down on the crash bars. I can't really tell how much the engine, I can kind of get my fingers between the dirt and the engine. So I think the crash bars are holding the cylinder somewhat off the ground. And I can tell that this part here is contacting. Here's a view from the back. So looks like a pretty good performance, I would say. While we have the bike over, kind of gives you a different view of the crash bar system here. And it gives you view underneath the skid plate with these cool slider things that kind of cover up the bolts, so your bolts don't get damaged when you're gliding over rocks and things like that. You can also see the big exhaust under here, and factory center stand, and our beautiful forged wheels. So one thing I love about the Boxer Twin GSs, they're very easy to lift for an adventure motorcycle. They're easier than most of the middleweight bikes, because unlike those, this bike doesn't fall totally flat, and you have this pivot point here on your crash bars and your cylinder. It's much easier to lift. So that's kind of the secret of these big heavy beasts, is how easy they are to lift. Now, getting a close-up look here at our crash protection, I can see, you know, very minor scratching here and down here, but I don't see really any impact to the engine or this plastic factory cover here. So that's good. I think this is a pretty darn good design, considering we don't all have like a cylinder cover on this bike. I like these kind of slider protectors here. I think they look good on the bike. They match the pannier racks, and they seem to offer some pretty decent protection there, because in a real world crash, you're going to be moving forward, and this kind of would take some of that slide. This is attached to the crash bar, not the engine, so it's not putting any force into the engine. So I like this design. I think this is really, really good. And when I had the bike, when I lifted the bike, I could kind of hear the stress coming off this. So this is a rubber or plastic bumper that doesn't bolt in, but it just rests on the frame here. So when this force is applied in here, it gives you an extra point to distribute the force, and it pushes on the frame, but that's not bolted in. So this has a little bit of play in it, you can't see. But I think that's a really smart engineering design. All right, well, I think that about wraps it up. Thank you for watching this short little video about the Touratech accessories. Hope you got some good information out of it. If you have questions, please put that down below. Now, I always encourage you to do your own homework, your own research. Look at other parts, look at OEM parts, look at prices, look at the pros and cons excuse me, of what's out there, and make your own informed decisions on your own. I always believe in that. But with that said, please check out the Touratech parts at the links below. And big thanks to Touratech for supporting this channel and sending me stuff to test. Other than that, ride safe, and I'll see you out there.